After our fun sail with Jenny and TJ on SV Rocket Science, we sailed to Cagliari, into Marina del Sole, because we had heard of an interesting boat for sale. Marina del Sole, qui catamarano Kittiwake, passo.
Without my love for the ocean, I would be long gone by. Clouds roll by, glittering. I never thought they would let me in. Fading like a distant call.
We really enjoyed our time in Marina del Sole, particularly walking around Cagliari and the harbour.
So today we are going to see our potential new home. Tayana 37 from 1976, and it's not in this country, it's in Spain, so we're going on a plane.
So we're going to walk to the train station, hop on a train to the airport and then fly to Barcelona. I think it's like a 2-hour flight or so, and then rent a car and drive down to the marina. And the guy's really nice, he's letting us stay on the boat. He's got a camper van, so he's driven that down from the UK and he'll stay on that and we'll stay on the boat. So it'll be a really good test to make sure it's like nice and comfy and all that kind of stuff. And then tomorrow we're scheduled to do a survey on it. So we've got a surveyor coming down from Barcelona to survey the boat out of the water, so we'll help him haul it out.
The sky is grey, I guess that's what it takes to feel it alone yesterday.
We just left Barcelona and we're driving a couple of 100 kilometers south from here to Sant Carles de la Ràpita, where the boat is. It's raining, which hopefully will bring us good luck, because when we went to see Kittiwake it was raining, but I guess that was in the UK, so you'd expect that. I just wanted to kind of explain why we're interested in a Tayana 37. Of course we are in love with the design itself. The Bob Perry double-ender design is something we've always loved, but there are many reasons, but the main ones, the important ones, are that it's a Bluewater boat. It's very seaworthy and sea kindly, and that means that hopefully it should be a gentle monohull for me in terms of seasickness and in terms of general comforts, because we live at anchor a lot of the time, and obviously a heavy boat helps with that. And as well, it should have enough headroom for Ryan, and Ryan is pretty tall. He is over 6 feet, 6 feet 3, are you?
Yeah, about that.
Something like that. And the Tayana should have space for that, and it's quite rare for boats to have that much headroom unless they're massive. So yeah, those are the main reasons, and fingers crossed this is the right one. So we're on board Alfora, and the surveyor is doing the survey, so he's looking about all over. but I've got work to do, so I'm taking advantage of this time to catch up on work. Ryan's overseeing everything, and then we'll get a debrief later on to see if we can get her. So we have had our debrief with the surveyor around lunchtime, and then we went for tapas to talk everything over. It's been a bit of a confusing day. I was quite negative at lunch. I think some of the problems, especially the bulkheads being rotten, sort of freaked me out a bit. But luckily Ryan is a lot more logical than me. So we've been basically talking through the pros and cons of the boat and the boat work that we'd need to do on her. And yeah, we thought not just to sort of show you guys, but also for ourselves to talk through it once again and like make sure that we're clear with the pros and cons and that we are happy with what we're thinking. So we wrote everything down because it's so much, and we'll try to be as brief as we can, but there is quite a lot to go through, but we think it's quite interesting for anyone who is buying a boat, wants to buy a boat, or wants to upgrade boats just like us. So yeah, where shall we start from?
The big cons that came up in the survey?
I mean, to sum it all up, it's lots of work, especially above decks.
Yeah.
But I think the sticky points were these ones, weren't they?
Yeah. So most of the bulkheads, which are plywood and original, are rotten. Some of them structural ones, which kind of support the structure of the boat, others which kind of support shelves and stuff like that. So that's pretty important, because they'll need fiberglassing in, and haven't really got very good fiberglassing skills.
And as well, like, why are they rotten? Like, where is the water coming from? So the surveyor thinks it might be from the decks, but then you researched a bit online.
I looked on the Tayanas have got quite a big owners group, which is actually quite a big plus of the boat. And it seems like a lot of people have problems with bulkheads rotting because of the bulwarks, which are like a hollow section, but the bulkheads kind of stick up into them. I'm not sure why they were made that way. It was a bit of an error. But if that's the case, then hopefully they could be resealed with epoxy, and then the bulkheads replaced with more ply, and then it'll be all right. Yeah, I think whatever we do with the boat, the current owner's got to sort those bulkheads out, because our surveyor punched a big hole in one by accident. Other points, the rigging is 10 years old. When we asked the current owner about the age of stuff, he said it's new, but in his head I think new meant that he'd replaced it, so it wasn't original. So there's a bit of a miscommunication, but
so I think he's had the boat for 15 years.
Yeah.
So anything that he said was new is between 15 and 0 years old, but more close to 15.
Yeah, I think the rigging's 10 years old, but it hasn't been especially well used. The boat hasn't been sailed very much in the last 10 years, so I don't think there's many problems with the rigging in terms of how much stress it's been under. And the surveyor had a really close look at all of the rigging with a magnifying glass, and he couldn't find any defects with it, which is quite promising. But at the bottom of the wire where it goes into the terminal, it's just been left open and hasn't been sealed, so there could be quite a lot of corrosion in there. So yeah, I think we'll check with an insurance company, our insurance company for Kittiwake, and see if we can get it insured without doing the rigging, because obviously we don't want to take the boat on without it being insured. So,
and we don't really have the money to replace the stunning rigging at the moment.
Yeah.
I think we estimated it, obviously DIY, buying everything from the cheapest place. I think you came up with something around 1,000 or something.
Yeah, at least. Given that the rigging's not in bad condition and hasn't been used that much, hopefully we can come up with a way around it. The surveyor suggested taking all of the rigging terminals at the bottom apart because they're stay locks, which I'm very familiar with because we replaced all of Kittiwake's rigging with stay locks. Checking them over and then either replacing the wire if it's really corroded or shortening the wire and then making up the extra length with toggles, which seems like quite a pragmatic solution. Most of the corrosion you'd expect to be at the bottom of the wire because all the salt is washed down by the rain down the rigging wires into and collects at the bottom. So yeah, we'll check that out and try and come up with a way forward. Then the decks, there's a potential that with all of these boats, because they're a teak deck laid on top of a fiberglass structural deck with a balsa wood core, there's always a risk that the fixings have allowed water into the core of the fiberglass structure and then rotted the balsa wood. And our surveyor seemed to think that could be an issue because the teak decks aren't in great condition, but we couldn't find any soft spots on the deck. And I've seen boats with soft spots. There was one next to us in the yard in Portimao, and it's pretty evident.
Completely different from what we've seen today.
Yeah, it seems pretty solid. So I've kind of got an idea of how we can investigate that by drilling with a hole saw, drill a core out from below, and then we should be able to get some of the balsa out and see what it's like, whether it's structurally sound or whether it's all a wet, rotten mess. And we'll do that near the bulkheads that's rotten, the most rotten bulkhead, and then that should tell us as well whether it's the teak decks which are rotting the bulkheads or the bulwarks which are rotting the bulkheads.
Yeah.
So
there's lots of investigating to do tomorrow and the day after with current owner Dave.
There's some quite daunting issues, but there's kind of potential practical ways to figure it out and just investigate it a bit more or come up with solutions kind of thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is that the rudder has got blisters. The hull itself hasn't got blisters, which we'll come on to later, but the rudder has got blisters, and it seems to be seeping quite a lot of water. That's pretty much every 40-year-old boat that gets hauled out, the rudder will seep water. So it's probably not a massive issue, but I'd like to know what the makeup of the rudder is, whether it's got a foam core or a wooden core, and what condition that's in, and how well, how good the metal is that's holding all the rudder together, whether that's all corroded or whether it's in reasonable condition. And I think we could get the current owner to do some investigating works on that. You probably want to know as well. So yeah, they're our main big things that were highlighted, and we have kind of come up with solutions or investigations to do with all of them. Yeah.
Maybe we could go on to the positives about the boat.
Yeah.
A lot of the problems that are typical of Tayanas aren't there. So, for example, the bowsprit is usually rotten, but this one isn't at all. It's really solid. Most Tayanas on the lower price range have a wooden mast. This one has an aluminium mast.
Yeah, it's been replaced. That's something that the previous owner did. So that mast is, I think, around 14 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's an aluminium mast, and it's pretty chunky, and it looks well installed. Keel stepped, so it's pretty good installation.
The chain plates, which are usually a problem with the Tayanas, have been replaced, and they're really beefy, really thick. And the knees have been replaced. The hull has no osmosis, and it's been treated with copper coat and all sorts.
Yeah, it's got some epoxy layers on it and an old copper coat treatment. It's now, that's worn out, and it's now just been anti-fouled over.
Yeah. Another positive is the engine is from 2005 with low hours. Other positives that aren't to do with typical problems not being there are, for example, there's lots of gear on the boat that we couldn't afford to buy ourselves. For example, there's a small bow thruster, there's a hydrovane, so a wind vane, there's a tiller pilot and autopilot, so lots of different ways of steering and self-steering the boat. I mean, having the hydrovane would mean basically having a second rudder sort of thing.
Yeah, it's an auxiliary rudder wind vane, so it acts as a backup rudder.
Yeah. There's an AIS receiver and transponder, there's diesel heater and a diesel oven, so there's all these bits of gear that if we were just to get a boat without them, we would never be able to sort of put them in, or at least not in 10 years, you know. It would take us a lot of saving up to put them in, and it is quite good that they're on there and they've barely been used really, so they're all decent condition. We still really want a Tayana, and this one is in Europe and for a cheap dirt price really. There's Heavenly Twins, so Kittiwakes out there for the same price as this boat, but this boat is 37 feet versus 26. So, you know, if it was to come at this price with some things fixed, it would still be
the issues sorted.
Yeah, and then of course there's lots and lots of space on board, and it's really heavy displacement, between 10 and 12 tons.
Yeah, so it means that we can load it up with a load of stuff.
Kittiwake is 3 tons, and you know, it takes maybe just over 7 knots of wind to get her to hobby horse all over the place, and we've really noticed it this summer when, like, just going from Kittiwake onto a 7 to 8 ton monohull, it felt way more stable, way less choppy.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, this kind of boat would eliminate quite a few of the problems that we have with Kittiwake.
Yeah, more comfortable at anchor, I think it will be. Although we haven't actually anchored out in it, so we don't know for sure. Maybe I'll roll around like crazy, but... Yeah,
but the monohulls that we've been on this summer, they've all been way more stable than Kittiwake, no matter what people say about catamarans. Kittiwake is really small and...
She bounces.
Bounces a lot. Yeah. So that's where we're at the moment.
We're going to talk to the current owner, let him know what the surveyor found, see if he wants to come up with solutions for those problems. And I think he will. He's a pretty practical guy, and I think he likes doing boat work.
Like he heard a few of the things that the surveyor was telling us during the survey, and he seemed to be quite keen to just fix the stuff rather than lower the price.
Because even if he doesn't sell it to us, he'll want to sell it to someone else, and then he'll have to fix these things anyway.
I mean, whichever other surveyor will come, they'll find similar amount of problems.
Yeah.
So I guess, you know, his boat isn't even on the market and all of that, so in a way we are an advantage because, you know, he's so close to selling her really fast without any fuss. And for us, it's, you know, if we can get past these problems, you know, there's so many advantages to this boat. The fact that she's not miles from where we've gotten to this year, so it's a few stops away from South Sardinia, which is where we have Kittiwake at the moment. And as well, the berth has been paid all the way until May, so if we can't sell
really
Kittiwake,
well.
really amazing marina, boat, water and electricity is all free. And if we can't sell Kittiwake fast enough, you know, we have a free berth here all the way until mid to end of May. So there's lots and lots and lots of positives. So it's just a case of seeing how bad the negatives are.
Yeah. But we'll do some more investigating and talk to the guy and then report back to you guys.
Yep.
So yeah, if we do go ahead with it, we'll probably do some sort of contract along the lines of we'll buy the boat on the condition of the works that we've agreed being done to satisfy the surveyor. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. Tomorrow we're going to do some holes from underneath into the core of the deck to see whether it's wet or whether it's rotted or what, and then obviously we'll kind of go from there. That's one of the biggest things that could be a potential issue. So it seems that the deck is in really good condition. So there's fiberglass on the bottom, and then there's this balsa wood core, and then there's another layer of fiberglass above. And the problem you can get is that water gets into it and then rots the balsa. But we've just taken this one out from below, and it's completely rock solid, which is really reassuring.
So she's in slightly worse shape than we expected her to be in, but even then it's really worth the little amount of money that this guy is asking. So I think we're gonna go ahead with it. We have been living aboard for a few days to try it out, and that has been really valuable. Some of the best things were the fact that obviously Ryan can stand up anywhere and I don't have to do the washing up because of it. So that will raise my quality of life quite a bit. No, it's a really great boat. I think the cockpit configuration is just so much better than Kittiwake because you can really get protection from the wind, the sun and everything. It's pretty amazing. There's so much space. It's just, it feels unreal. Like when I'm in the V-berth, the companionway feels miles away. I guess because on Kittiwake everything is boxed in different compartments and cabins, so it feels even bigger. It's just a big step up from our simple Kittiwake. So on one side it's like, way great, it's gonna be super luxurious and fancy. On the other side, obviously at the back of my mind I'm worried, oh, are we going to be able to maintain this boat and bring her back to shape? But luckily we work for a living, so we can just slowly make up the money and the time to actually bring her back to her previous glory, hopefully.
Over the next few days we did some work on the boat and checked the condition of some of the systems.
Next, light the burner through the same aperture with a taper or match.
I think his matches are very old.
Oh, God.
That's not right.
No.
That's still there. Oh, it's lit though.
No, it's lit.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't seem.
Well, it works. Success.
We've been doing a little bit of work to this boat, trying to get the teak decks as waterproof as possible before we go, resealing around the hatches as we found out they leaked last night in the big storm. Just doing a few other bits and bobs, mainly to the teak deck really. But yeah, it's looking like we'll get this boat, probably put it under contract in the next couple of days.
So tomorrow we're going back to Kittiwake and we're gonna spruce her up and get it ready to sail, really. Final impressions on the Tayana. I think she's a really great boat, but we weren't really prepared for how bad condition she was in, really. I think the survey has highlighted it, and having a proper look around, especially up on deck in the daylight, has really shown a lot of work to do. But I mean, we're really heavily financially invested in this boat by now, and it is the boat of our dreams. Like, what's underneath all this grime and bad painting and, you know, all of these defects is the boat of our dreams. So all we can do is take this deal. There was a reason why it was so cheap, and just do our best to earn the money to put her right and make her shine, because she deserves to shine. She's a great boat. So it's going to be a lot of work, much more than we anticipated, and we might have to just do it in stages, even more so than how we did it on Kittiwake. So start with the essentials and move forward and just keep going. A little bit underway, a little bit in the winter, a little bit in the spring. And I mean, it's okay. Instead of saving up towards a new boat, we'll save up to do this one up. So it's always the same, isn't it? Work, save, work, save. It's just how it is, isn't it? But yeah, I think it will be really rewarding. Even just sprucing up the varnish on the wood outside was really rewarding. And I think once we tackle each bit, it will start to really look nice. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy our videos and would like to get access to more exclusive content from us, join our Patreon crew from $1 per month. Join us next time as we say goodbye to Kittiwake and start the long process of getting our new Tayana 37 back into shape.